Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. Here we have it, Monday morning. Bitcoin has pulled back to the $95,000 range. We have a battle on our hands this week between the bulls and the bears, the longs and the shorts, as we approach the $100,000 six-figure psychological milestone for the price of Bitcoin. The mining stocks are all over the place. Talk about volatility. We're seeing up, down, and everywhere in between across the board today. And we've got a number of key updates or press releases from the miners to discuss in today's video. A lot going on. Before we get into it, take a second, smash the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling about the mining sector overall right now, your price target for Bitcoin in the final few months of 2024, and whether or not you think we'll break through this $100,000 sell wall this week or not. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. All right, Anthony. Well, here we are Monday morning. Bitcoin has pulled back into the $95,000 range, retreating over the weekend. We were wondering if this was going to be offset by Monday morning buying. However, it's continuing to pull down. Miners following suit, volatility all over the place. We actually had to redo our intro. Miners were trending green about an hour ago. Now they've turned back red. We talk a lot about volatility on the channel, but this week specifically, Anthony, we're going to see a lot of volatility as we approach this $100,000 US Bitcoin psychological milestone. And really with the option activity now, the shorts, the longs, the bulls, the bears, a lot of people involved in this market, really leading up to this $100,000 sell wall that we've talked about on the channel previously. So a lot to get into in today's video. Before we do though, I wanted to get your comments on Bitcoin. We saw it as high as $99,000 and change last week. There was a lot of optimism we may hit that $100,000 marker over the weekend or early this morning. We've yet to do that. Bitcoin has pulled back. What do you make of this, Anthony?
Well, we reached, I think, 99,600, so we're only $400 away from the 100,000 mark, which would have been great. Six figures for Bitcoin in 14 years. The pullback, again, it's volatility. I mean, we'll come on to show why we think Bitcoin deserves to be at 99,000 in a second and even going through 100,000. But I don't see as many reasons for the pullback other than maybe some, the trading styles that are going on at the moment with regards to, we've seen it with MicroStrategy and with Marathon Digital last week. We're seeing that push through. I was expecting Asia to help a little bit at the weekend. They normally help on a Sunday. It was starting to rise yesterday, and I woke up this morning and it's been yo-yo today. I mean, the volatility has been more so today than in most days, especially with the mining stocks. And they seem to have correlated with the Bitcoin prices. The Bitcoin price rallied a little bit. The miners were up in the green, as you said, before opening. And then they've dropped off, and as the Bitcoin price came down again, and they were back up, and it's down again. So we were sort of like, we spent 20 minutes working out how we were going to talk today, because at one point it was going to be a totally different discussion. Now we're sort of like seeing this pullback to 95, but again 95,000. I mean, 2 weeks ago, when the election happened, we were like, we're going to get an all-time high, which was 74,000. So, we've had a really, really good rally. Let's not forget that in the last few weeks. But as we see from some of the other slides that we're going to show, there's no stopping purchasing of Bitcoin at the moment.
No, there certainly is. And I don't know what to make of the charts. I feel bad for the technical analysis guys right now, Anthony. You and I focus on fundamentals. And from a fundamental perspective, both from Bitcoin price and hash price. These miners are in a lot better position than they have been in quite some time. So we're feeling confident with the mining sector overall. We're starting to see some big drawdown days in MicroStrategy, MSTU. They had some big dips last week, maybe starting to see that shift or that timing migration we've talked about in terms of the proxies. So it'll be interesting to see how that thesis continues. Now, moving into the mid-morning market update, before we talk about this sell wall principle we've discussed on the channel, I wanted to look at the stocks themselves. Marathon again up today, making moves last week in announcement of that big purchase. MicroStrategy has come out this morning, 55,000 Bitcoin in the biggest purchase ever in history, period, for Bitcoin. On the other end of the spectrum, we've got Cypher and Wulf in the lower portion of the chart today. So talk about that HPC exposure, and Core Scientific at the time this one was taken slightly red. So again, you've talked about this in terms of the HPC versus pure play miners, Anthony, but starting to see that divide again today.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned Marathon Digital. That they've had a great week or so now. I mean, we saw the share price, I think, beginning of last week dropped down to $18, and today it had already risen above $28. That was a big move, and that coincided with them announcing that convertible bond, the $1 billion convertible bond. It was well oversubscribed, so they raised it to $1 billion, of which 980 million of that will be used. Majority of which has already been set aside to buy Bitcoin and bolster their position in Bitcoin as effectively the second largest public company to have Bitcoin on the balance sheet behind MicroStrategy. I mean, they'd have to have a few more convertible bonds to catch up to Michael Saylor. But interestingly today, and we can say today, Marathon Digital have reached their highest market capitalization since they became a public company. So a lot of shareholders, were probably caught out back in 2021. The share price at its peak did rise to over $80 a share back in 2021. And people were saying to me the last sort of 5 or 6 months, will Marathon ever get back to that valuation again? Well, they've reached that valuation. However, this is the impact now of dilution over that period. So if you think about the number of shares they had back in 2021, it was around about 100 million shares. And if you look at what they have today in terms of valuation, they've got closer to 300 million shares. So if you think about the number of shares times the share price doesn't have to get to $83 to get to that all-time high. Today it did at $28. So that just let people know that that's the impact of dilution on a company. So if you bought shares at maybe $55, $60, $70, as that company was rising, you're now waiting literally for the company to double where it is today to sort of see your investment get back to where it needs to be. So that just wanted to clear that up. And that was, it didn't get to 8 billion for long in 2021. It literally got there and it came down just as quick as it got there. But it did rally significantly during that bull cycle, and many stocks that we talk about on a daily basis, and some of those that we don't talk about as much anymore, like Argo Blockchain, also rallied into significant market capitalizations. Now we're starting to see some of them achieve their all-time high valuations this year. So we saw last week Core Scientific was valued over 5 billion. There's a company that was valued at 600 million back in early this year, back in April, I think it was, April the 3rd or something like that. I was on a conference in London, and the share price at the time was well under $3. And I remember buying some at that conference, and I was sat next to another industry guy, and he purchased a lot of shares that day in Core Scientific because he said this is ridiculous for what he's seeing in the marketplace. And people who've been following the channel now, or following me at least for the last year or so, know that from well over a year ago, I've been highlighting Core Scientific in updates and analysis, because even though they're in Chapter 11, they were still operating as a really good miner. Yes, they had the issues with creditors and paying the bills, and they've gone through that process. They've come out that process. They've come out stronger for that process, and the only way that valuation is going is it's going up. But other mining companies also I mean, we talked about TeraWulf. They reached an all-time high market capitalization this year, close to 3 billion. And again, that, when I was buying shares in TeraWulf last year, the market cap was about 100 million. So, some massive, massive increases this year. But because of the fact that these companies are using the ATM to grow, that means your share price isn't growing as quickly as you anticipate looking at the actual market capitalization. I just wanted to make that clear today. But Marathon Digital performing the best today, closely followed by the likes of Bitdeer, looking at Gryphon also close to 5% up today as well. So we don't get too many updates on Gryphon, but today their share price is doing really well. Bitdeer is up over 5%. Riot's in the green as well. And there's a few other, majority of the shares are in the red. But as I say, most of these were green, literally an hour and a half ago. And it's just been a bit of a yo-yo period.
It certainly has. Now, you bring up a lot of great points there. Interesting you clarify the market cap. The way I think of that in my brain, Anthony, the pie is as big as it's ever been. However, there's a lot more slices taken out of that pie now.
Absolutely.
So interesting when people talk about all-time high share price versus all-time high market cap of the company. And you're exactly right. Essentially, they sold the company 3 times over. So the all-time high share price is now about a third, right? Then you talk about Hut 8. I saw a tweet today. We saw Michael Saylor almost egging on, I guess, Fred Thiel last month, talking about them increasing their HODL. Now he's shifted focus over to Hut. So I saw them going back and forth with Asher and Sue today, which is awesome to see. Saylor, such a voice for the community. Also going to present to the Microsoft board next month. So just an advocate for the space, which
I
is
think
awesome to see.
I think I've seen a tweet from Asher today saying, what should they do regarding Bitcoin?
That's
Should
what I
they buy
refer to.
more?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I saw that as well, that tweet, and he's given people 7 days to vote. Now, effectively, he's the CEO. I don't know if he needs 1,000 other CEOs answering that question there, but it'll be interesting to see where the retail investors think they should be, because I know there was initially quite a lot of angst about Marathon going out and buying Bitcoin as a Bitcoin miner. Even from other miners saying, come on, you should be
Yeah.
focusing on trying to produce Bitcoin at the lowest value. That's your niche area. You're the biggest Bitcoin miner in the world. Get your costs in order, get Bitcoin produced at lower price, and you'll do well there. But the market seems to like the strategies that they've used. So, and the market's, not been wrong with MicroStrategy. So, who's to say? It'd be interesting now with these. We talked about this a while back about the companies that have the HODL and how they're going to be affected in terms of market capitalization. So, not unlike the likes of Marathon Digital, you've got Riot Platforms with over 10,000, nearly 11,000 coins already. I think it'll be 11,000 at the end of this month. You've got the likes of, I'm going to say Hut 8 with well over 9,000, but you've got clean on their heels there is CleanSpark, also well over 8,000 coins. And then you've got the likes of Hive Digital with 2,500 coins. And some of the smaller miners also adding to that as well. DMG had 399 at the last time I looked at there. Bit Digital have got, I think, I think at their last monthly update, I think it was over 124 million in terms of crypto. So they also have Ethereum and Bitcoin on their balance sheet there. So these will be massive increases for the month of November, because what we've seen in the last 4 weeks is the price of Ethereum and Bitcoin rally significantly. So there'll be their holdings will represent far more than they did previously. So the market will be picking up on this, and it won't be long. I'm assuming for their share prices all start reflecting it as well.
Yeah, most definitely. No, good comments there. And it's interesting, Asher puts that up to a vote, talking about should I buy, sell, or hold. I did the same thing, Anthony, talking about my sell strategy last week. So as many of you will know, 95,000 was kind of my magic number. Looks to be in the right range as we're seeing a lot of volatility between 95 and 100. I decided to hold out. I don't believe the miners are fairly valued right now. I actually ended up buying miners last week. and Bitcoin over the weekend. I know you purchased as well, Anthony. It brings up a good point, though. A lot of people, as we're getting close to this psychological milestone, are questioning the strategy. Is it time to take profits? Has the game shifted? Do I want to double down? We're seeing CEOs do that. Interestingly enough, from HODL 15, a couple great visuals talking about this sell wall that's been created. You can see two different ways of displaying this, one vertical, one horizontal. The first, Anthony, with the red line across the screen, showing the activity around that six-figure milestone. So you can see heavy, heavy volume at the $100,000 level, the 99,900 level, the 99,800 level. And then if you look past that in the 100,000 plus range, very light volume in terms of the quantity of sell orders. So that's what's really creating that sell wall you see at the $100,000 level. In the other visual here, Anthony, and I'll let you make comments on these as well, you can see different layout in terms of the graph, but same visual here with the dollar value across the x-axis on the bottom and that huge vertical red line right around the $100,000 milestone. So this is exactly what we had predicted, exactly kind of what I thought would happen, and leading to the volatility, the choppy trading we're seeing this week. What do you make of this sell wall? And do you think we're going to be able to smash through it this week, Anthony?
Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now.
Yeah, I mean, 862, Bitcoin ready to be sold at the 100,000 mark there. That's staggering. I mean, it's nowhere near that either side of it. So it is, people have set prices to sell this. However, you're quite right. Once it gets above 100,000, there's nothing to stop it then. And so if you look at the chart that highlights the amount of orders, you're quite right. The 100,000 has got 862 Bitcoin due to be sold at that price there. Now, if we look at the 99,900, which is only $100 short of that magical figure there, there's only 104 orders. But at that point in time, if you look at the cumulative amount of orders up to 99,900, they've gradually been building, there's 1,598. So it does look like there are orders set in place all the way up to the 100,000. And then as you go past 100,000, you're then into sort of like 13, 14, 15 orders. Yes, there's one at 47 orders, like that. But it's minute compared to that point in time which we stressed. We thought a lot of people would set orders in about 100,000, and then when you think about it, even if we were thinking of selling, we go in slightly lower than 100,000, knowing that we don't want to miss the opportunity. So you set in a lower figure, but it looks like a lot of other people out there are just as bright as we are, and they've set their figures at the lower amounts as well. But it just shows you at that 100,000, 8 times as many orders in place as there are at 99,900. That needs to be reviewed there. And obviously, we'll come on to the ETFs. But 862 Bitcoin isn't a massive amount of Bitcoin in terms of what the ETFs have been buying recent periods.
Well, that's exactly it. I was going to say it does look large on this visual. It's interesting how people love round numbers. Hey, 100,000, everybody groups in there. Even the 100,500, there's a lot more orders there, as you say, 47 versus either side. So just interesting how human psychology works. And that's obviously why the technical analysis guys are able to trade the patterns, because people do obviously act in patterns. So it'll be interesting to see. You bring up the ETF, so Anthony. So if we take a step back and we think, okay, on the bear side of things, there's a lot of people waiting to sell to cash out profits at $100,000. They've created this sell wall. On the bull side of things, we've got this steamroller of an ETF just absolutely plowing money into the market. So again, if we look at last week, we've got a visual from HODL 15, positive inflows every single day of the week, Anthony, to the tune of about $3.5 billion. We've also got a weekly cumulative chart in terms of the number of Bitcoin from HODL 15 being purchased. So I'll let you walk through these. But in our opinion, Anthony, that sell wall stands no chance to this type of volume.
No, and if people are selling Bitcoin at anything between the 96 and 100,000 we see today, then the ETFs are going to be snapping these Bitcoin up as quickly as they're being sold. I mean, you're talking last week, nearly 35,000 Bitcoin, and we were talking about 860 being sold at 100,000. So it's just relentless. The Bitcoin ETF now valuation has already surpassed the total of the gold ETF, and we've only had the Bitcoin ETF going for, it's less than 11 months. So probably 10 months if you think about when they were approved in January, and we're in November now still. So just over 10 months in place, already gone past the gold ETF. So every time you turn on a news station now, they're talking about Bitcoin. So we're seeing that sort of in terms of discussion, in terms of conversation around Bitcoin. It's growing. We want to see the adoption. We want to see some new retail investors come into the market. I'm having discussions with people on a daily basis about Bitcoin, and they were unsure about it, and I just said, let's look at the position this year that we've seen, and look at the amount of respected organizations that are buying Bitcoin onto the balance sheet, and then sort of like make your own mind at whether you want to be part of that. When you've got the biggest investment bank in the world, BlackRock, buying Bitcoin in massive amounts, that we talk about Michael Saylor's holding. They've got nearly 150,000 more Bitcoin than Michael Saylor, and so massive amounts of Bitcoin being purchased by these ETFs. It's just absolutely relentless.
It certainly is. And old Sailor's not too happy about that, throwing down 55,000 Bitcoin purchase over the weekend to get a little closer to those ETFs. Now, Anthony, in terms of the sell wall itself, I think this week will be ultimately the determining factor. We think that the steamroller is going to continue here and push through this psychological wall, but we'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. So let us know, do you think this is the week or not to get through the 100K milestone? Now, on top of that, we've got a couple of housekeeping or press releases out from the miners here, Anthony. I think 3 in total. Bitdeer, DMG, and of course TeraWulf with some HR or personnel news there. So I'll let you walk through those as well. But overall, very exciting time for the Bitcoin mining sector.
Yeah. So Bitdeer themselves, they've gone along with the likes of Marathon Digital and Core Scientific, and they've issued a convertible senior note for 360 million. That has an interest rate of about 5.25%. So obviously higher. Well, Marathon didn't have an interest rate. Core Scientific was very low. So Bitdeer, a non-US company, so that we've talked about, where companies are domiciled and the impact that has sometimes. We've obviously had to slightly incentivize people, but it's still a low rate. If you think about debt, and you think about mining companies going through for loans in 2021, 2022, they were paying, companies were paying 14, 15, 60, all the way up to 19%. I saw some companies paying 19% interest rate. So 5.25 into a bull cycle is not a significant amount. And obviously the markets appear to be, a lot more sort of happier now with these companies. And bear in mind, Bitdeer, we've talked about, self-mining is probably one of the smallest parts of their business. They do so much more than that. They build the machines, and they have great success with that now. They're rolling out the SealMiner A2. We've seen them looking to use some of their power for HPC. They've already ran a project in Singapore, a small project, lessons learned, and so they can, proof of concept on delivering that HPC project. They can now expand that project into other areas, and they've got probably one of the biggest pipelines of power to do that. So this convertible note helps them get some capital in place to start covering some of the costs of delivering some of these promises in their strategy. And as convertible notes, they will be converted, or they can be converted to shares at the rate of about $15.95, which is showing at the time of this came out about a 42% premium to the share price. So that's not unusual. I think if you look at the Marathon Digital conversion, again, I think that was around about the 50% premium mark there. And that's why they are so sought after, because you're buying into a company now, but you're going to be able to buy the share price. If the company does really well in the next few years, you can buy the share price locked in at the exchange rate that was determined now, not in 4 years' time. So, we can see some of these companies grow significantly, grow their hash rate, grow their HPC contracts. And when it gets time then to convert, you're in a good position then, because the share price may be a lot higher and you'll be able to go in at that lower price. So really good update for Bitdeer.
Very interesting to see these convertibles, Anthony. We talked about this in relation to MicroStrategy last week, but essentially a loan to the company and a call option in addition to that for the investor. So very interesting to see that. DMG now coming out with some fleet upgrade news. The Hydro miner, 15 joules per terahash, putting it in one of the most efficient categories among any of the mining rigs out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, these are some of the most efficient mining machines on the market. And the cost also at $15 per terahash. I mean, we've seen some of the miners achieve, all right, close to 14, but, the full price now is probably over 20 per terahash for mining machines of this caliber. And they've invested about $5 million in growing these machines.
Yeah, and I'll just throw in there, Anthony, because I have it up in front of me. This will bring total DMG hash rate up to 2.1 exahash, so surpassing their goal. Efficiency for the fleet will go down to 21 joules per terahash, so essentially putting them in the top tier, or probably top 3 to 5 miners we cover on the channel in terms of efficiency. So a great overall update from DMG. Now, the final one is from the Wulf pack, TeraWulf here, appointing Sean Farrell to COO position. So we actually just had the CFO, Patrick Fleury, on the channel. We've had Nazar. We've had Paul Prager, the CEO. So it'll be great to get Sean on the program soon here. Again, bolstering the bench strength and the depth of the personnel heading into this bull run.
Yeah, great appointment for TeraWulf. We've had Paul and Patrick on the podcast in recent months talking about their execution, talking about their growth into high performance computing. They've got 2 projects, a 20 megawatt project, 50 megawatt project. They're still going to be mining, but not growing the mining as much as what people were expecting to maybe 6 months ago. But they've got over 8 exahash at the moment. That will grow back to 10 exahash when the machines from the Nautilus get reinstalled at their Lake Mariner site there. And one thing Sean will be responsible for is to make sure that the operation of those machines is back up and producing as much Bitcoin as possible as they get closer to 10 exahash, and bring down their efficiency of the fleet as well at the same time, using the more efficient miners that they're going to pull from the Nautilus site and install them at the Lake Mariner site. But yeah, a good appointment. All these companies, we've talked about having cash and Bitcoin and being able to grow that way, but you can't underestimate the human capital value that these companies have, and this is another good announcement.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And we actually asked that question in all of the recent interview series here as well. Talk about the team you've built, the human capital, the expertise, especially as it pertains to data center development and procurement. So great to see Sean moving into the C-suite position there as COO. Looking forward to having him on the program. You guys, let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling about Bitcoin price this week, the $100,000 sell wall, and your personal Bitcoin mining positions. If you're still watching, hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow.